Here's a quick look into today's episode.
I noticed that our summer trainings, it's mostly for the leadership. So it's for the squad leaders, it's for the first sergeants, the PLs, the XOs, the COs. Like, it's for them to develop their leadership style and, like, you to see, like, okay, that doesn't work. I'm not going to do that to my people. One thing that I noticed with the task force, like, we talked to this guy at one of the lanes. I think we asked him, like, what's the best quality you've seen in a PL? And he said, well, you just have to make sure, like, you're going to go to bat for your guys. Like, because if they know that you got their bag, they're going to have yours. Coach Alma talked to all of us, all the freshmen, and she was like, it's going to be hard, but she said, you just need to be where your feet are. So you're going to have to do hard things as long as you just stay in the moment. Like, you do what they're asking you in that moment, you're going to be fine. And the LT that was in charge of us, his name was LT Smith. He took his kid in, like, 3rd platoon. He was sleeping, and he didn't have his rifle in his hand. It was just, like, laying next to him. He grabbed the kid's rifle and put, like, a magazine of blanks in it and just started full auto into the sky. And so everybody started freaking out, and they were like, everybody needs to get in the house now. And so then my platoon went into this the two-story house, and they're like, if you have ammo, you need to be in a window. And so I was in the window, and I was just shooting at the Op 4, because it was like 20 of them. It was just like the 101st, like, privates and sergeants and corporals. And they were just coming out from, like, where we had come up. They were coming up the street. So you're, like, shooting at them. It's, like, blanks. So, like, they're just, like, running around doing whatever they want. Everyone's, like, running out of ammo because we didn't know this was going to happen. One of the last kids was this, like, tiny little kid, and he was hip firing. He wasn't even looking down his sights. He was just hip firing at the people. And he started, like, yelling when they started getting close. And then some Op 4 guy, like, came up the stairs. I was upstairs, and he came up the stairs and threw a smoke grenade in the room. He was like, you guys are all dead. You have to get on the floor now. And I was so confused because I was like, who let the Op 4 in the house?
Welcome to another episode of Teach Me to Fish, where our purpose is to help leaders better understand what drives people. In today's world, the core of recruiting and retaining talent revolves around leadership. And not just average leadership, but motivated, values-based, inspirational leadership. Our purpose is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories and stacking habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Rye, you're home. I want to hear all about West Point. I want to hear how things were going. I've purposefully not asked a ton of questions over the last few days, even though you kind of given me a bunch of stuff to think about and some hints and stuff like that. But, like, what I really want to do is, like, 5 or 6 things, right? Your first year, what it's been like, what were your expectations kind of going in, and how they met. Like, I want to hear about Beast. I want to hear about how volleyball went, and talk a little bit more now that you've had a chance to kind of relax
Yeah.
and let it kind of sink in a little bit. School and classes, first year, CST, the summer training, what that's all about, and then, like, what you're looking forward to going into year number 2, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like, expectations, like, I remember we talked, like, before about some of the things that you were really hoping to get out of it, or looking forward to the most about going out there to West Point. So how did it meet some of your expectations, or not? You can start either one of those areas.
Yeah. So I think it met a lot of my expectations just because I talked to so many people that went to West Point, like Uncle Rob and Uncle RJ. Like, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know the specifics, like how exactly freshman year was going to go. But, you know, I expected to be surrounded by a lot of the people that had the same drive that I did, which obviously I met that expectation. But I feel like I didn't really have that many expectations going in. I was just kind of ready to start. Mm-hmm. I was ready to get going. And, you know, you start with Beast, which is completely different than the academic year, the AY. So, yeah. I mean, I expected Beast to be hard, and it was, like, kind of hard, I guess. Yeah. It was, people hyped it up a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it wasn't that bad.
Don't you think it wasn't maybe because it was so hyped up and because you were kind of worried about it, and therefore I think maybe you were prepared?
Maybe. I don't know. People just said, like, it's going to be so bad. And I got there and I was like, okay, it's bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And
What
then-
did you what did you think it was going to be so bad? And
I don't know. I thought it was going to be like, I thought I was going to want to quit, and I never wanted to quit. Like, there were days where I thought, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this, but I never thought I want to go home. Like, I want to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I never was like, I want to not do this ever again.
Right. Right. You always saw that there was like a light at the end of the tunnel, and it wasn't that
I
bad.
mean, I used to measure in between like meals. So, okay, I'm just going to get to lunch because they said we're having spicy chicken sandwiches today.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So people give you so many different techniques, like how to get through tough times, and like just get to the end of the day, or people like I'll quit tomorrow or something like that. Do you think that there was like, do you think you had like a vision of something like greater, like coming, and that therefore that never even really crossed your mind?
I mean, maybe, but I mean, at the picnic before our day, Coach Alma the volleyball coach talked to all of us, all the freshmen, and she was like, it's going to be hard, but she said, you just need to be where your feet are.
Yeah.
So she was like, you're going to have to do hard things, but like, as long as you just stay in the moment, like you do what they're asking you in that moment, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what I focused on a lot, but that's what helped me a lot.
Yeah. What was Beast like?
It was a lot of just getting up early. You were just tired a lot. Like, they get you up at 4:45 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they're already like yelling at you. And then you get up on the wall and you run out to PT. You do PT for like an hour and a half.
Were you living in the dorms, the barracks at this point? Okay.
And I lived in Brad during Beast, but so you run out to the plane and you do your PT, which it's different for everybody, but most of the time you just warm up. You do push-ups and sit-ups. Sometimes you'll do combatives, or you'll run, or climbing drills. It just depends on what you're supposed to do that day, I guess. And then you'll run back and you'll shower, and then you'll go to breakfast, and then you'll do whatever they have you do for that day. But the first half of Beast is a lot of like briefs where you take a lot of notes and you learn what you're going to have to use in what you're going to have to use in the second half of Beast when you actually go to the field and start doing a bunch of stuff. But the first part, you're just trying not to fall asleep in an auditorium because if you fall asleep, they make you stand up. So you just take notes, and you're getting sized for your uniforms, all like the basic stuff. So the first half of Beast is like teaching you how to be a cadet. You have to memorize like all the rules and everything. And then the second half of Beast is like Army training.
Yeah.
Basically. Like you'll do I think you do land nav, and like you have to learn how to use your rifle in Beast 1. But in Beast 2, you're going on FTXs. But that's when we had our longest FTX, and then you do the Crucible and things like that. But yeah, it's a lot of just getting up early, being tired, and having to do a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah. What was there anything that surprised you that you learned during Beast the first few weeks that you hadn't heard people talk about?
I think I thought it was going to be more Army training in the first half of Beast.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a lot more just teaching you how to be a cadet. So you have to learn how to wear all your uniforms the right way. You know, I was surprised at the fact that they didn't expect you to know anything.
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to expect me to know how to do all this stuff, but they don't expect you to know. They just expect you to try your hardest.
Yeah.
And make sure you're not like slacking off.
Well, that fits you pretty good. How soon after Beast was volleyball kicked off?
So we got out of Beast, I think like a week early. Football leaves pretty early. Volleyball will leave early. Soccer will leave early. And then cross country will leave early. So we left like a week before everybody else. And we started practices and weights and things like that. And then we went to New Jersey to train some more. Because in New Jersey we could have like a morning session And then we would eat at the DFAC, and then we'd have like an afternoon session, get to know your teammates a lot, because our season starts pretty early.
Were you staying in a hotel in New Jersey?
It was almost like not barracks, but everyone had their own room and their own bathroom.
Okay.
So it was like a little hotel room, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was pretty nice. I
Okay.
liked it. But when we were in Piad, like when we got out of Beast a little bit early,
Yeah.
we were staying in Davis. So we
Okay.
stayed in the barracks.
Okay.
With a lot of the rest of our team and the other teams. But so yeah, we got to stay in the barracks and train at West Point for a little bit, and then we went to New Jersey to finish our training, and then we came back the day before A-Day, and then we had our like black and gold scrimmage, and then I think our first game was maybe the first week of school.
Yeah.
I think we had like preseason games, but for the first semester, or at least the first half of the first semester, I didn't go to a single full week of school. Like we would get out for Fridays because we had games, or if we had an away game, we left on Thursday. For 1 week, we had a preseason tournament in Missouri, and so we left on Wednesday, but we didn't have school on Monday, so I went to 1 day of school that week.
Yeah.
I went to school 1 day, and then I was like,
Did
I'm out
that
of
make
here.
it harder to get good grades and harder with the classes? Because you're required to make up the work, or you're required to do the work still. Was it harder because of the sports?
I think it depends on the classes. Like for physics, it was hard because I had to make up the labs. But overall, I thought it was fine. Like I didn't see much difference in the first semester versus the second semester. But I think that might have been because first semester, like when we go to away games or something like that, we have study periods, like where you have to do your homework.
Yeah.
Like you have to finish your homework. But, you know, I think I'm more academically inclined. Like I always had like my schedule written down of stuff that I had to do, and I would just go based on what was due first.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was like, okay, we have a game this day. I'm not going to want to do my homework after the game. So I would just try to do that stuff that was due earliest. So that way I wouldn't have to worry about it on top of having to worry about volleyball. And
then you said, second semester was a little bit different because the volleyball starts to tail off. There's less practice. There's less, there's definitely less games after the tournament was over. And then that gave you a lot more time for classes?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, we had, in second semester, we started doing position practices. So for the first half of the second semester, it was almost like pins and libs would practice 1 day, and setters would have off. And then setters and libs would practice, and then pins would have off, and then setters and pins, etc. But you still were having practice 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And when I say off, you still have to go to lift. Like you have lift, but then you're off. So that was easier because we would get done at 5 instead of getting done at like 6:30. But it wasn't that big of a difference. It was just, instead of having like away games and being physically away from class, I was just in class.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was like the same because we still had workouts in practice.
Yeah. But. Okay. All right. How did the end of the year kind of come about? How did things wrap up with the school year? And, we got to talk to you a lot, towards the end of the semester as things were getting to wrap up. And, one of the classes is getting ready to graduate. One's getting ready to go off to, their cadet summer training and stuff like that. Everybody's about to go in different directions. What was it like that last month?
So the last month you have to get ready for T's, which is like your term end exam. It's like your finals. So you have your finals. There's like finals week. So there's only, I think, 2 formations during finals week, or 1. I think there's 1. It's like a lunch formation. Yeah. And so you'll take your T's, and so that's pretty much like a free week. You just study for your finals. So like sometimes, like I had 1 morning final, and then the rest were like in the afternoon or in the evening. So that was fine. And then the next week is grad week, where you just have to like drill and like pack out your room.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of slows down a lot, especially because there's no schoolwork. And like in T's, you're just studying, and then grad week, there's no schoolwork. So everyone's just packing out. But yeah, it slows down quite a bit. And then everyone is just getting ready to be the next class. So they were preparing us plebes to be team leaders and go off to CFT. And then the yucks this year, so like the sophomores, were getting ready to be squad leaders and go into their leadership details.
Mm-hmm.
And then the juniors were getting ready to go to CTLT and CLDT and be like firsties. So everyone's just really concerned about their summer training.
Yeah. So
everyone's just preparing for that.
Yeah. Was there any part of that you were getting nervous about, or? No,
I mean, I don't mind going to the field. I think that's like fun. Like it's like you get to actually do the Army stuff.
Yeah.
Like the AY, you do a little bit, but you never do like as much as you do during summer training. So I was done with school and I was ready to do actual Army stuff. So I was excited for it. And I had CFT1, which is like what a lot of the athletes will have.
Yeah.
Which is only like 2.5 weeks as opposed to CFT2, which is like a month. So I was glad that I didn't have to be there for a month. But yeah, I was excited, but there were some people who don't like the field at all.
Yeah.
Who were nervous.
What do you like the most about the field? Like what good memories do you have from it?
I don't know. I had a really good squad and a good squad leader during CFT or like CST. We call it CFT because it's field training.
Yeah.
But like summer training.
Yeah.
My squad, even though like CFT1 had some sucky points. Like one time it was raining for like 12 hours straight and people were cold catting everywhere. It was so bad. But like my squad, like nobody in my squad was just sitting there like upset and like complaining because we were all like, okay, we're all in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make sense to just complain about the situation that we're going to be in for 6 more hours.
Yeah. So
we kind of just like, our squad leader would just like joke about it and all the rest of the squad would just like laugh and joke about it. So it was fine. We would just, it was packed. Like every day we were really busy, which
one thing after the next, after the next.
Yeah. We didn't get a lot of downtime, or when we did, it was getting filled with more random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just like being surrounded by people going through like, not to say like I want people to go through the sucky things with me, but like we're all going through the sucky stuff together. So we just make a lot of really good memories.
What was the hardest part?
I think the hardest part was probably some of the movements. Like we got blown out of our patrol base at the end of our FTX. Like towards the end of our FTX. And we had to like run down the side of a mountain and some kid was carrying the 240 and he like face planted on this rock because it was like almost 45 degrees. And so we were like running down this rock and some people were just sliding down it and he started running and he just stopped and he face planted with the 240.
He had his rucksack on still?
Yeah, everyone was, you had to run out of the patrol base with your rucksack.
Mm.
But it's like, we're on a mountain, so we're like we're going like up and down and like across, we had to like cross a river. It didn't make sense.
It was hard.
Yeah, some of it was just, yeah. It was hard, but it was just kind of, it was like, it was almost just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't make, like most of the stuff made sense, but sometimes some of the movements we were making, I was like, okay, so we're going to this, like where our ORP should be. But there's a road right there, but we're walking up a like 90-degree incline. So we don't walk on the road. But like the whole company was walking maybe 20 meters off the road, but the terrain was so steep that people were like slipping and falling. Like we were going up just to go back down and go near the road and go up again. I was so confused. Like, but there's the road right there. And like people were getting like injured.
Why
like somebody like twisted their ankle.
But why not be on the road?
Because it's dangerous. Because we don't want to get seen, I guess.
Yeah, but if you're 20 feet from the road.
But if I'm 20 feet from the road, I'm going to be seen anyways.
Yeah.
But So yeah, there were just some parts to it. I was like, what? Why? Like, what? I don't see a point to this.
Yeah.
But we got.
Is that because it wasn't explained why we have to be? Or
they told
off
us
the road,
they
or?
were like, okay, when you're actually moving, they told us this like during land nav. They were like, when you're actually using land nav, when you're in the big army, you're not going to be able to use the roads because you don't want to be seen. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But it almost just didn't, like, it wasn't being used properly.
Yeah. Like, you got to be far enough away from the road so that
but it was like
someone
such
comes
a
down
steep,
the road, they can't see you.
Yeah, but it was such a steep, like, terrain that, like, to get far enough off the road, we'd have to like, climb up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just confused. And then somehow we ended up back like near where our tents were, like where we would sleep like normally. And I was so confused because I thought we were like 14 miles away. But we made it. And
you ended up where you kind of started.
Not like where we started, but like where we came from initially, like where all of our stuff was like normally, like where the showers were.
Yeah.
It was very confusing. And then we got to do cool stuff. Like the next day we got to fly on a helicopter. So it was worth it.
Yeah. What'd you fly on a helicopter for?
We had our like air assault mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole company was staged in like the PZP formation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we were staged, and some people got to fly in Blackhawks and some people got to fly in a Chinook. So I got to fly in a Chinook, so like my squad and like a couple, like maybe like 1.5 other squads. But we got to ride in the Chinook, which was a lot more comfortable than the Blackhawk. because we had to prepare because we didn't know which one we were going to be in. So a couple days before, they had us practice we had to practice both. And practicing for the Blackhawk was so bad because it was so crammed in there and everyone had their rucksacks, and I was in weapon squad, so we had the 240s. So it was just, everyone was packed. And we didn't have a lot of small people in our squad. There's like me and one other small kid, and everybody else was pretty big. But yeah, so we were like packed in there. And then the Chinook is just so open. It's like a big bus. It was amazing. But yeah, we got in it. And so we had to run. We ran on. And we buckled our seatbelts and we put our rucks in front of us. And then we took off. And we started going. And we went like along the Hudson. And we passed West Point. And they like opened the tailgate. Or not the tailgate. Whatever it is. The ramp. Mm-hmm. And so we could see West Point and like see out the back. And it was really cool. And then when we landed, I think it was like 14 miles away. Mm-hmm. Maybe. It wasn't that long of a ride. It was like an 8-minute ride in the Chinook. So then we landed and you had to run out and like pull security around the helicopter. And then it took off. And then we had to run into the wood line and establish a patrol base. And then the reason why we took in it, like we got to do the helicopters, was because we were going to this place that was almost like, it was like a, what's it called? It was like supposed to be like a village simulation. Mm-hmm. So there was like empty houses everywhere. Okay. And so we performed like a platoon, like ambush almost. Not a platoon, almost.
Raid?
Yeah, kind
Attack.
of. But for a lot of it, 4th squad, my squad, we were just kind of sitting on this berm, pulling security. And then they moved us to this house. And we pulled more security. And they were like, okay, we're going to go on a mission. And we were like, okay. So then I was in gun team 2, so we were attached to, like, in between 2nd and 3rd squad. And so we had our mission, which was movement to contact. And then we had to go back to the village, and we were moving back. And the LT that was in charge of us, his name was LT Smith. He took this kid in, like, 3rd platoon. He was sleeping. And he didn't have his rifle in his hand. It was just, like, laying next to him. He grabbed the kid's rifle and put, like, a magazine of blanks in it and just started full auto into the sky. And so everybody started freaking out. And they were like, everybody needs to get in the house now. And so then my platoon went into this the 2-story house, which was really good because the other platoons were cramming into, like, tiny little houses. And they're like, if you have ammo, you need to be in a window. And so I was in the window and I was just shooting at the OP4 because it was, like, 20 of them. It was just, like, the 101st, like, privates and sergeants and corporals, and they were just coming out from like where we had come up. They were coming up the street, and you can tell because they're wearing the black t-shirts. So you're like shooting at them, but it's like blank. So like they're just like running around doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
So like they were just like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. And then everyone's like running out of ammo because we didn't know this was going to happen. And so we were running out of ammo. And so we had to keep replenishing like the windows. They were like, if you have ammo, you need to be in a window. And one of the last kids that had ammo was this like tiny little kid, and he was hip firing. He wasn't even looking down his sights. He was just hip firing at the people. And he started like yelling when they started getting close. And then some Op 4 guy like came up the stairs. I was upstairs, and he came up the stairs and threw a smoke grenade in the room. And then he was like, he came in the room, and there was like 5 of us in the room, and he was like, you guys are all dead. You have to get on the floor now. And I was so confused because I was like, who let the Op 4 in the house? Like they just watched him walk up the stairs. And so I was dead. So then I had to get carried down to the room where all the casualties were. And then I was just laying there on the ground. And they were like, okay, Index. And we had to pick up everything. And then we had to get brass and ammo. And it was it was long, but it was fun. That was the most fun day of the FTX. Or of CFT. We just got to fire at everybody. And then
Did
we waited
you have
for
Miles
transpo.
gear or no? No. Did you have Miles gear?
What is that?
Obviously you didn't, if you don't know what it is.
No,
it's the laser on the front of your weapon and the vest that we wear with the sensors to when you pull the trigger, it senses with direction.
We just had we had our ACUs on, and we had our taps on. So we had they call it, everybody else has a flick.
Mm-hmm.
But for our year, they changed it. So now instead of like a vest, it's like, it almost goes like around your waist instead.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's nothing up here. It's just like the straps.
Yeah.
So you have like your canteens and your mags and like your IFAC and everything like that. So you had your mags, and then you had your ACH on. So yeah, it was pretty bare.
Yeah. What'd you learn about, okay, so we just talked about like 4 or 5 different things, and then we talked about the field training. There's confusion that's out there. Mm-hmm. What did you learn about leadership from maybe the way that some of the more senior folks or the lieutenants led versus the way that some of the first year folks led?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that our summer trainings were mostly like, it's to get like the plebes or now the yucks like to train in the field, but it's mostly for the leadership. So it's for the squad leaders, it's for the first sergeants, the PLs, the XOs, the COs. Like it's for them to develop their leadership style, and like you to see like, okay, that doesn't work. I'm not going to do that to my people. But one thing that I noticed with the task force, like the people from the 101st, is we talked to this guy at one of the lanes, and he said, I think we asked him like, what's the best quality you've seen in a PL? And he said, well, you just have to make sure like you're going to go to bat for your guys. Like, because if they know that you've got their back, they're going to have yours. Mm-hmm. And he said something, I don't know what he was talking about, but he said, my LT now, if he asked me to go get a Humvee, he didn't care how, I'd come back with 2 Humvees. Yeah. My last LT, if he asked me to go get him a Humvee, I'd come back with lunch for me, is what he said. I was like, okay. But yeah, he basically just explained, he was like, from like an enlisted perspective, he said like, as long as you go to bat for your guys and you do your job and you show your guys that like you care about them and like you're here to get the mission done, then they're gonna have your back. So
when people say like you got to take care of your people, right? Mm-hmm. You got to take care of them. You got to go to bat, but you also got to train them to fight and win in combat, right? Sometimes the people that train just do nothing but train to fight and win in combat, but they can kind of be an ass about the way that they go about it. Makes it feel like that they don't care. Mm-hmm. They don't care about their people, right? And then there's other people that just take care, like they're just nice to people. They treat them good. They don't hold them accountable. They don't make them do hard things. So people kind of like them, but they're not prepared to fight and win in combat. That leader didn't prepare. Was anybody one end of the spectrum? Did you see them like going too far, being too nice to people to make them like them? Or did you see anybody that was going too hard in the paint and everybody hated them, but they were trying to just accomplish the mission? Did you see any kind of extremes?
I don't think I saw any of like the two extremes. But I mean, it's a lot of just cadet leadership is like figuring out like where that balance is.
Mm-hmm.
So like we had to prepare a lot of stuff, like our weapons and everything. Like we had to take a lot of detail to that,
mm-hmm.
which nobody wants to do, but like we were doing it anyway because like that's what we were told to do. But
you mean like weapons maintenance, cleaning them and everything?
That was so boring. It was so boring. They wouldn't let us go to Barth. They wouldn't let us go to the chow hall.
To the chow hall.
But yeah, I think it was our lane walker. I think it was LT Smith. We had LT Smith and Corporal Rhodey. Those were the two task force.
Both from the 101st?
Yeah, those are our task force for our FTX.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was LT Smith. He was talking about like if you want your people to like you so much, but then you're gonna end up like they're not gonna be, like you said, like they're not gonna be prepared for war. Like they're not gonna be prepared to fight. So he talked about like, we talk about this a lot at West Point and like in my PL class, but we talked about like likership versus leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously you want your people to like you and you want to go to bat for you. You want to go to bat for them, but you know, like you also have to pair them the right way.
What are you looking forward to the most about going back for your second year?
I'm excited to have a plebe. So like I'll be in charge of one person, mm-hmm. one or two people. So I'll have a plebe in my company that I'm kind of in charge of. And I'm excited for that because, you know, first semester is kind of a lot as a plebe. And I leaned on my team leader a lot. So I'm excited to be on the other first semester, it was Wyatt Siramatros. And then second semester, it was Benjamin Theodos. First semester, it's just a lot. Like they have, I had so many questions as a plebe that I just expected my team leader to know. So I'm excited to be on the other end of that spectrum and see like if my plebe's going to be really locked in and not need my help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to, you know, pull them out of their shell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Be a little bit more on that, like going to bat kind of side.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to have to be like have to lock them in. Be like, hey, you got to like focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. So
okay.
I'm excited to see that.
All right. What else are you looking forward to about second year?
I get to start taking some of my major classes. So like stuff related to engineering management. So I think I take like a business class,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of exciting because your first couple of years, you take a lot of the same classes as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But in your second year, I think you take one or two of your major classes. And I get to take German. So
is there anything you're nervous about going into the second year?
Not really. I mean, the first year, you just kind of learn how to be a cadet. So the second year, you just have to make sure your plebe is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to learn about leadership second year?
I want to see like how people thought the different leadership details went.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I have to pick mine for the next summer. And I don't want to pick something that's not going to give me a good like leadership experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to see what people think they grew the most from. Like which leadership detail they thought they could like develop the most as a leader.
All right. And then for people that are gonna, you know, there's a lot of leaders out there that are gonna get people that are gonna, you know, show up as second lieutenants, going to show up to the force. You know, what's the biggest message that they're kind of pushing for you guys as you prepare to kind of be that, call it a quote unquote, like the next generation of leaders for our Army? What's the main theme of the things they're trying to push for you to be prepared to to be that next generation of leaders?
They told us a lot. They were like, don't expect, like, you're not going to go into the Army and change anything. Like, you're not going to be like the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to go in there, you got to do your job. Like, you got to see like what your soldiers expect of you and like what you expect of your soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right when you get in, like, you shouldn't be trying to change everything.
Yeah.
Like, right when you get there.
Yeah.
Like, you got to see like what works and what doesn't work and ask like your people. Communication, I think, is like one of the biggest things that they've told us. But
yeah, because the Army, I've been in for 32 years now.
It's a people business.
As much as that seems like forever, that's really just a blip. Like, things have not changed so dramatically from when I first came into the Army to now. Yeah. Some of the equipment has changed, some of the techniques have changed slightly, but the things that Brady's doing are not that different than the things that I was doing growing up, enlisted in the Army. And the things that you're talking about are a lot of the same things. And so I think it's a good way to kind of go into it saying, the people that are out there that are doing it right now, like, they know what they're doing, and they're doing the way they're going about it is for a good reason, and we can learn a lot from them going forward. But instead of going into it and saying, I've got to come up with a new way of doing it or a new creative, like, we have things called doctrine, and we have things that have proven to work over the years. Yeah.
Another thing they told us is like, you're going to have like your NCOs, like you're going to have like your PSG, and you're going to have like your first sergeant that like, they know, like, they're subject matter experts. Like, you lean on them, like, bounce ideas off of them. Yeah. Like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. It's funny to hear you in just 1 year, like, you haven't even been gone for like a full year, but like to hear you use like all these terms that kind of you only hear from other people in the Army, like subject matter expert and like, we're going to get transpo and like hearing you use a lot of the FTX, like acronyms. The Army is full of so many acronyms. Like, you can't be coming home from these trips and like half the words in your sentences are acronyms. Like, I'm not going to handle that well. I already don't like using as many acronyms and explaining what those things are. But just hearing like the way that you talk about it, it's clear that
it's weird coming home or like going around like my friends who don't go to West Point and they're like, what'd you do? And I start using all these like acronyms. I'm like explaining like what we did at like CFT. And they're like, what? They're like, wait, what does that even mean?
What does it even mean?
And I'm like, okay, yeah.
I don't even know what it means.
But I mean, it's also nice to not be like around people, like only West Point people all the time. Like, it's nice to, I don't want to say like be normal, but it's nice to like not be West Point for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people ask me something. They ask me like, how do you maintain work-life balance, and like, how do you have a family and still be successful in the Army? And something I've resonated with over the last, few years is that when you're first starting in the Army, there doesn't have to be a lot of balance. Like, there shouldn't be. Like, you don't have a family right now, and you don't have kids. You don't have a spouse. Like, your job is to become an expert at what it is, you're doing, and you should be focused. And when I think about to my enlisted days, like growing up as a Ranger, like that's all I did was PT and go to the range and go to the field and try to be the best Ranger that I could possibly be. I was not balanced in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So when it became time to be a dad, or to be a husband, I had already figured out the basic, like how to be a soldier type stuff, and then I was able to start to maybe balance out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, they do a lot of that at West Point. Like, you're there for so long. Like, I mean, you get the opportunity to go home. Like, you get Christmas and spring break and everything like that. But when you're there, they're teaching you, they say, hey, like you're getting taught how to be like a leader, like how to be a future officer. So, but then they also, like, you get to go home and you get to be yourself. And a lot that people have told me, like older, like my leadership, they told me like this place is hard. Like, it's meant to challenge you.
Mhm.
And it's meant to teach you a lot of stuff, like how to be a future officer. But the main thing that they told me is you can't lose who you are to
Yeah.
just be like a future officer, because then that's not going to serve you any purpose. Because then
Right.
you're not going to be able to like lead if you're not like your own person. You're just gonna,
Right.
you know.
All right. Well, what else? What last thing do you want to kind of wrapping this thing up? Like, what advice do you have for people that are maybe going into their first year at West Point or any service academy, or people that might be even considering doing something like West Point or ROTC or joining the Army as a whole?
I mean, if you're thinking about anything like that, like the service academies, joining the military, anything like that, it's going to be hard. Like, it's not supposed to be. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have hard days. It's going to suck sometimes. But it's just, you kind of got to embrace the suck. You just got to be where your feet are and keep going. As long as you don't stop, you're going to be fine. But yeah, that's what helped me a lot. Like, through Beast, through the academic year, through CFT, I was like, okay, as long as I just finish this one task that they're asking me to do right now, like, they're going to give me another one and it's going to be fine. Like, I just got to finish this one right now.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Rye. We're lucky to have you home.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see you go into the next year, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes to kind of share what your thoughts are with some people that might be kind of going through the same thing, or parents that are out there with their kids kind of trying to decide what they're going to do with their life. So thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best decision I think I've made so far. I haven't made a lot of big decisions in my life, but it's a pretty good one.
Thanks for listening today. I hope we sparked some thoughts about the people that have inspired you to be who you are today. I hope you share some of your thoughts, and better yet, demonstrate them for the people in your life. Our pursuit is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories stacked on top of each other, building like compound interest. Keep stacking these positive habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Please share your comments at the links in the show notes and DM us at Teach Me to Fish podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.